Self-improvement, there's probably a different reason for you and me as to what made us start this journey. I remember when I first started this journey that I thought what I was doing was pretty normal. Hitting the gym, working hard, meditating, want to be becoming the best version of myself. I realised that this wasn't really the general population doing this. There wasn't many people out there actually doing this, and although we get trapped in a bubble with self-improvement and this industry, you realise when you go out there into the real world that there's not that many people doing the types of things that you are doing and making the exponential progress that you can make at such a rapid rate. And I made significant progress within the first few months, especially in the gym, especially improving my mental health, my mindset, confidence, kind of all the areas that most people would want to improve in their lives. And regardless of what you think of self-improvement and the self-help industry, no one can argue that these things are massively beneficial to your life and make you a better version of yourselves. However, I realised that the self-help industry is not always as it seems, and there's a lot of people out there that don't have your best interests at heart at the end of the day. And I've been there. I fell for some scams, and I'll hold my hands up and say that I did. I remember I bought Iman Gadzi's course, some mastermind course. It was around $900. And I realised, you know what, this is an absolute scam. I did manage to get my money back. I followed a lot of Andrew Tate's beliefs and thought, this is the way I should see the world as a masculine man. And all of this stuff that a lot of young guys kind of fell down that rabbit hole. I definitely fell for that trap for a portion of the last few months, the last year or so, and I think a lot of people have been there, whether they will openly admit that or not. And there's been a lot of other people out there who I've probably listened to that haven't had the best influence on me, and their beliefs have rubbed off on me, and that has made me think that they are my beliefs, whereas in fact they're not my beliefs at all. I probably think the complete opposite, and before I watched these videos my mindset was very different, and I have to remember that, and we all have to remember that, and that's why I wanted to make this video today, because why you started is probably very different to how you feel now and what you think you should be pursuing. I had these goals written down of making $10,000 a month because that was a go-to thing in self-help, and it probably still is, how to make 10,000. All these online businesses, video after video, and you've been there where you just have this kind of mental fatigue of watching these videos, all this noise in your head. And even if you don't watch these videos, if you're on Instagram a lot, on Twitter, on all of these things that most people in the world are on, spending hours every single day on these apps, then you just feel awful after you, because you have so much noise, and especially for a young person growing up, it's very hard because of that noise. I think that's one of the biggest reasons young people are struggling. They're hearing all this voice of, what they should be doing, comparing themselves to other people, and they don't know what to do with their lives. And I think because of these types of content, we are feeling the same. And like I said, I had all these goals, moving to Dubai, getting to 10,000 subscribers, making X amount of money online, selling courses, the typical grifter, a lot of people would say, selling courses and etc, etc. You see a lot of people out there who have done it, and they clearly don't have the best intentions for you out there. And these goals, in somewhat, yes, they might have helped me, with some type of dopamine every day, but that's all it was. That it was no fulfillment in chasing these goals, because inside of myself I knew that this was not fulfilling for me, this was not purposeful, it's not actually what I want, it's just what I've been told by influencers that I should aspire to be like. And I realised this. I realised, more importantly, that the whole world revolves around money, revolves around status and power, and that's what pretty much all these big companies, all these millionaires, billionaires and the future trillionaires, they want that, and they all have the money now, so they are going for power and status. And that's what a lot of people want, because before money was a thing, before that was a measure of success for a lot of people, our ancestors, what was it all about? It was about status and power. Who was the most able hunter, who was able to have the most women in the tribe. That's what it's all about, and that was power. So it's always been a thing innate to ourselves that has not just come around the last few years. It's always been a biological makeup, especially of a man. to chase and aspire to have the most status and power in the tribe. And you realise that is what it's all about, and you realise that is people's intentions, and it's no fault of their own. We all have that inside of ourselves, but we have to learn to control it and contain it and realise why we want this, and is it truly going to feel inside of ourselves better, and understand the reasons why we are doing this for. Because I generally believe that a lot of people don't know why they are doing a lot of things in their life. They don't know why they're working in this job. They don't know why they're in their relationships. They don't know why they don't look and feel good. But I believe that everyone has this power. You can realise this very quick, but you have to have that self-awareness a lot of the time, and think, okay, take a step back of the situation and time to consolidate and think, okay, why am I doing this really? Like, I don't need to do this anymore. And it takes a certain type of mindset, a mindset shift of doing this. And I went back to the basics. I remembered for myself personally, I didn't want to work a normal job. I saw my mum do this for a large portion of my childhood, and I think that had a massive effect on me. I saw her wake up every day and find the work she was doing uninspiring, nothing that she wanted to do. She didn't care about it. And I saw a lot of people do this, and as I got older, you speak to people and they tell you different things, and I obviously even experienced that firsthand. I've worked a lot of different types of jobs, and shitty jobs, corporate jobs, graduate jobs, and I realised this is not it at all. Like, this is not worth sacrificing for any monetary gain. Like, I just wasn't happy at all, and there was a bunch of different reasons. I lacked confidence with women. Like, I wouldn't be able to speak and attract to the women that I believe I wanted to attract, and I felt I'd been mistreated, not got what I deserved in that respect. I didn't maybe have the friends, the people I wanted to be around. I just didn't have the body. I felt very skinny, insecure externally and internally. And I realised, I want to change this. So naturally I gravitated towards this content. And for you can probably relate to this. Maybe things with fitness, maybe relationships. There's probably some type of thing you can relate to. Maybe all of it and much more. But I remembered, okay, why did I start this and how do I actually get this? Okay, so I have to lose sight of the things that previously I thought was getting me there, and kind of reverse engineer everything that I've done. That I thought, I believed that this was serving me well. I believed that staying at home and just working harder, trying to create some type of online business, making some money, saving money, trying to have some controversial takes that would make me bigger on YouTube and social media, not seeing friends, that I thought maybe they're not too good for me. All they do is, drink alcohol, and, it's not a positive environment for me to be around. And yes, I still agree to a certain extent that that's important. We don't want to be around people that aren't going to improve our lives and don't have that compatibility with us. They don't have the same goals, which unfortunately for a lot of people, and probably you yourself, you have those people in your life still. Over training in the gym, going 6-7 times a week, this was not benefiting me, and it wasn't even making me feel good. I changed this, not sleeping enough, because I thought, I need to make the most and fulfill my day with tasks that were a lot of the time meaningless. And that's what a lot of people do. I see it clearer than ever that a lot of people think they're being productive because they're sitting at their laptop. They think they're being productive because they're always busy, they're always on the go. But a lot of the time they're doing the opposite, really, because there's definitely a beauty in stillness and sitting with yourself and realising all these things that I realised at a young age. That's because I spent time on my own. I meditated on it and realised, why am I doing these things? Why do I feel this way? Do I want to do this? Do I want to be with this person? Do I want to live here? Asking all these questions at 20 years old that most people at 50, 60 never have once asked themselves in their life. And I see this time and time again, and I like to ask a range of different people, range of different backgrounds, ages, mindsets, beliefs, all of this. Like, okay, are you happy? Why are you doing this? What is your goals and stuff? And it's interesting when you ask these people, they don't really know. They pause and be like, yeah, I'm okay. And especially growing up in the UK, it's very much, yeah. You say, how are you doing and all this? You'd be like, yeah, I'm good. How are you? Yeah, I'm good too. But behind that, a lot of people aren't doing so good, and they clearly, that's not how they're actually feeling. And like I say, I think that a lot of us, including myself, that's why I made this video, but I can see it in a lot of young people, a lot of young guys that have watched this content. They have lost sight of why they started this journey, and I think a lot of young guys are unhappy and they're lonelier than they were before this, and they did the things that they thought would bring them success and happiness, like chasing the money, starting a business, getting into the gym, and all this is well and good, and on paper it sounds great, but they missed a lot of fundamental parts of life that is a catalyst to happiness and is an essential. Like, you're not going to be happy without this. You see these millionaires and billionaires, a lot of them are very unhappy because yes, they have the money, and I'm not saying money's a bad thing at all, I don't believe so, but they forgot about the things that matters, and they never know when enough's enough. All they do is work their whole life, and they never know when to stop. They never know when to spend time with their family. Yes, they might have kids or whatever, but they don't spend time with them. They've missed their whole childhood. They don't have friends because they were just working on this mission for the whole time, and they kind of, the friends they had, they've lost because they've had enough. They've not made any effort with them. They're going to find new friends, and they probably are very, picky and choosy when it comes to friendships and intimate relationships, who they let into their lives, and they're probably you're probably a lot less willing to compromise the people you spend time with, because you're like, I'm productive, I see myself a certain way. And yes, it's very important to have high standards, hold yourself to a certain level in the people that you let into your lives, but I think you want people along the journey who can come with you and encourage them as much as you possibly can. And just because they don't have the same mindset as you, they're not, doing whatever you believe makes you successful in life. Your version of success and their version of success is probably very different, and that's completely fine, and you should be okay with that. But like I say, a lot of people, they're not happy because they've made these changes they thought would make them happy, and it's not translated. And you have to go back to, why did I start this, and what am I doing this for? And pretty much everyone started this with good intentions, to probably something similar, to be a lot more confident in themselves, to maybe make a bit of money so they didn't have to work some shit job in their local town or whatever it may be. Remember that. You need to remember this, because I think another big problem is that people seem to believe that, if you're ambitious, you can't be content in life. You'll never be content. You're always going to want more and push on and push on. And you see this in a lot of people, and they're not happy. But you have to, if you want to be that guy who wants to be a billionaire for whatever reason it may be, you'd be like, okay, but you're pretty much guaranteed to not be happy, and not have relationships, and not make the memories. And for me, that's just not worth the trade-off whatsoever. Like, that's not a good quality of life. But you have to be the judge of that. I just see this as a story you are telling yourselves, that if I am ambitious, I can't be content, and if I'm content, then I'm not going to be ambitious, and I'll be lazy, and I'll take the foot off the gas. But you have to see life is an adventure, and it's always going to be a journey until your last day. And all that you'll have on your deathbed is going to be your memories that you have. And if it's all that spending time working, and you have X amount in the bank, and you're productive and all of this stuff, no one's really going to remember. No one's unfortunately going to care, and that is the harsh truth of reality. And you want to look back and think, I gave it a good go. I had some great memories. I made some great people. I did everything that I wanted to do, and that's why we started this journey. And I want you to remember that. I really do, because this video has been a very important reminder for myself of losing scale of that, and I've even not been as consistent as I want to be with the YouTube, and I have to hold myself accountable to that. And that I genuinely enjoy making these videos for myself, and for you watching this video to help you live a better life, because that's all I wanted to do with starting the YouTube channel. It wasn't about making a lot of money, having status. It's not about that. I would completely change my videos up if it was about that. I could take this to a higher level in terms of subscribers and be a lot more controversial, as I said, which I did for a small portion of the time on this channel. But that's not what I want to do. And yeah, I want you to remember that. I hope this video has been insightful, and it might just make you meditate and spend some time thinking about why you started, and make a plan now of, be like, okay, I've lost course of where I'm going, but now it's time to make a change, because now is the perfect time. It's all you have is the present moment. So it's now or never, really. I should get sucked further and further, and it'll make you less happy. You'll make less memories, and for me, that's not a good quality of life. And I'm sure you probably have a very similar perspective to me, as you wouldn't be watching this videos. But if you need any more guidance on this, because I know life is very challenging, and we need other people around us to become successful and live a more meaningful life. So my one-to-one personal coaching link will be in the description below. I hope this video has been really helpful for you, because I know it has been for me. And if you can like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Drop a comment too if it's helped you, and I'll see you in the next video now. Take care.